We're good? All right, cool. The meeting of the Planning Commission will come to order. Please rise and follow Commissioner Duarte in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Will the Deputy City Clerk please call roll?
Yes. Commissioner Uva,
Present.
Commissioner Duarte,
Present.
Vice Chair Ortiz,
Present.
and Chair Owens is excused. We do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the time to set aside for oral communications from the Planning Commission. Does any commissioner wish to make an announcement or report on a conference or meeting or request items for a future agenda? Commissioner Uva?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Duarte?
Nothing for me.
And I have none. Does the interim community development director have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Does the interim community development director have any presentations for today?
No presentations.
Does the interim community development director have a report on city council actions?
No actions to report tonight.
Now this is time to set aside for public hearing for special event application PLN-22-001117. Does the Deputy City Clerk have proof of publication?
Yes, Chair, I do have it.
Cool.
Vice Chair.
Will the interim community development director introduce staff making the presentation for today?
Our community development intern, Stephen Fowler, will be giving the presentation tonight.
Good evening, Vice Chairman Ortiz and fellow members of the Planning Commission. Tonight, you're being asked to consider a special event permit for a one-day event located at 11610 Lakewood Boulevard. The applicants are the Desert Rain Church, and this event is the 12th annual Harvest Festival. It is important to note that this application is identical to one submitted in previous years. This is an aerial of the subject site outlined in red, located at the southeast corner of Lakewood Boulevard and Hall Road. The yellow highlighted area is where the event shall be staged. This is the corresponding zone for the subject property and nearby areas. The subject site outlined in red is professional offices. As shown to the north is commercial. To the east and south are residential, and to the west is manufacturing. This event will take place Monday, October 31st, Halloween, from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The activities will consist of inflatable rides, game booths, live entertainment, and food sales. The live entertainment will consist of a DJ, and the estimated amount of attendees is a maximum of 500. This is the proposed layout. Again, there will be booths and rides located throughout the space, along with the DJ. Entrances are to the north of the space at Hall Road, and to the south at the rear of the parking lot. The Development Review Committee met on September 15th. No department expressed concerns over the proposed use and issued standard conditions of approval. I would like to reiterate that this event has happened in previous years and no issues or incidents have occurred. And for this reason, all departments are content with the standard conditions of approval. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions or concerns of the Planning Commission.
Thank you for the presentation. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of staff? Commissioner Uva?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duarte?
None for me either.
And I have none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant or his or her representative, this will be the time for planning commissioners to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about the subject, about the project. Commissioner Uva,
None for me.
Commissioner Duarte,
None for me.
and I have none. The public hearing is now open. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward and give testimony?
Hi, my name is Leo Lopez, and I'm a outreach director at Deseret Church. Like you guys heard, we've been doing this for 12 years, and it's been just amazing to have a place where the community can come and gather, a safe environment. It's been really successful. So,
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Uva?
I have none.
Commissioner Duarte?
No questions for me.
I have none. Thank you. Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
No, Vice Chair, there hasn't been any correspondence.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of the application?
Here's a remote. I don't know whose it is. Okay. Yeah, good evening. I would like to stand up and speak in support of the Harvest Festival. I think it's been around 12 years at least. I think it's it speaks to Downey's culture. It culturally enriches us, especially in Christianity. That is what our country is founded on, Judeo-Christian values, not gay rights or anything like that. I'm disappointed that we're not going to amend this again, just like the Warren High School Athletic Department. I think you should stipulate in there that the city council should donate $50,000 to the church for putting on this activity that enriches our society and our culture. It's worthy. If you're going to enrich other groups of people, which do not represent the vast majority of Downey, you ought to put in the pot $50,000, especially because of inflation. We can't just go $30,000 anymore. It's got to be $50,000. Another concern is they're going to sell food. Now, we know what happened at the Warren High School Carnival. Somebody alerted all the street vendors who are not permitted to come and sell their stuff at the Warren High School Carnival. People paid $100 for each booth to go in there, and it was a fundraiser for them to make money as well. And when the mayor and councilman from the 5th district were notified, they scoffed about it and said, "What do you want us to do?" You know, well, you're not going to do anything then, huh? Okay. These are non-permitted people being allowed to solicit their goods unchecked at the carnival because they had a ready-made audience there and a ready-made customer base. And it took away from the funding of our youth and our Warren High School athletic program. But nothing was done, and nothing is being done here about it either. This is being allowed, and it should stop. And I think you should revoke all the fees to this church, and they shouldn't have to pay any fees, and that should be registered with the city council to let them know that. There is no reason they should be having fees to pay as long as you're letting street vendors who are non-permitted to sell their goods outside of the facility, because that's what's going to happen. Apparently, District 3 put out the word that her friends are going to come there. Their street vendors are here in this city, and they're here to stay. That's what she says. And not one of them has a permit. Revoke all the fees, protect their right to make some money. Thank you.
So, sounds like we got a plan. a plan to invite God's church to conduct an annual one-day harvest festival. Well, goddamn, it's not the Ku Klux Klan, and it's not the goddamn Baptists and their beliefs in tongues, but it should be something that we should consider to waive those permits. I keep mentioning it. We're coming out of a recession. We're going into inflation. We're going into a circumstance where goddamn white niggers, idiots, oh, let me rephrase that, fucking idiots, don't get it. The church is a nonprofit of its own. It doesn't pay taxes because God forgives them. Just like you should forgive them, Mr. Ortiz. Now, if you were God-fearing, you would believe that God created me. Except Satan put in my mind what you can't see. And if you could only know what exists in my brain and the fear of the dark that I see every night when I sleep, my 3 hours, then you would know that fucking hell is just right around the corner for me. And that's no fucking joke. However, though, on a good note, I would like to see some of these fees waived. Why not? Why not? When the fucking Ku Klux Klan throw their rallies, they pay for their own shit, and they invite anyone who wants to participate in a annual or one-day event. So I'm here in support of the church as long as you can waive those permits. Because you got those fucking wetbacks coming in here with no permits, selling their fucking junk out of their trunk, carrying their goddamn fucking ice chests down the streets and blocking sidewalks. So let's just be fair. Let's waive all permits. Let the wetbacks, let the churches, and let the niggers do what they do. Right, Mr. Duarte? This ground of permits doesn't seem unreasonable. Seems a little hostile, especially when one has to pay and someone else gets it all for free, right, Miss Attorney? You wouldn't want to work as an attorney for free, pro bono, because it's better to hold on to the boner than to let it go out of your hand. So really consider this. We're in support, waive the permits, and for God's sake, listen to yourselves.
Thank you. Because there's no opposition, the public hearing is now closed. Does the planning staff have any recommendation?
Planning staff asks for approval for PLN-22-00117.
It is now time for the Planning Commission to deliberate. Does the commission have any questions at this time, or will the commission would like to discuss the item? Commissioner Uva?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duarte?
No questions, but I know it's a great event that's been going on for a long time in our city, and I'd like it to continue.
And I have none. Thank you. May I have a motion?
Second.
Motion to adopt PLN-22-00117.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second.
Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see. You know what? We'll do a roll call. Yeah, sorry, we didn't know that you were going to be in the center. Let me just end this. Let's do a roll call vote. So we have a motion by Commissioner Duarte, and second by Commissioner Uva. So I apologize. Commissioner Duarte, your vote?
Aye.
Yes. Commissioner Uva? Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And Vice Chair Ortiz?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes 3-0
Thank you.
to approve, with Chair Owens absent, to approve PLN 22-00117 for a special event application. Thank you.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the City Council with the appropriate fee within the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Now this is time to set aside for public hearing general plan amendment PLN-21-00139. Does this Deputy City Clerk have proof of publication?
Yes, Chair, I have it here. Or Vice Chair.
Will the interim community development director introduce staff making the presentation for today?
Today we have our consultant, Diana Gonzalez with MIG. She'll be giving the presentation via Zoom tonight.
Thank you. Hello?
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for having me here. As staff indicated, I will be doing the presentation on the item in front of you. I'll be reviewing some background on the housing element and talking about the latest revision to the document.
Excuse me.
Yes?
We see your text.
Oh, sorry. How's that?
A lot better. Thanks.
Okay. I'll also, so as you know, we brought this before you previously, and so there's some information you've already seen. There's also some new information. And so for the sake of brevity, I'll do a quick recap of some of the information that has already been presented and focus on the new information. But if there's anything you have questions on that maybe I went too fast, I'll be available for questions. As you know, the housing element is part of the city's general plan and lays out housing goals, policies, and programs to guide the city's housing related actions. It's different than other elements because it has to be reviewed and approved by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. Now, the adoption deadline was October 15th, but it's been extended and we'll review the current timeframe in a few minutes. The 6-cycle update is different than previous updates for several reasons. The major reason is that the RENA for the cycle is significantly higher. Also, many new laws have been passed that have added new and more stringent requirements for the housing elements. It's added an expanded fair housing section, and it's given HCD more oversight over the process over compliance issues. And so they've been very detailed about the review. And I'll also discuss that in a few minutes. The housing element has 5 main components, which are the chapters or subchapters in the document. And these chapters, they establish the baseline conditions. And what they do is they set up the foundation for the housing plan. And all this information feeds into the new goals, policies, and programs. And to make sure that we're updating them in a manner consistent with current information. A key part of the housing element is showing where the city can accommodate future housing with the RENA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which you have heard about. As you know, the city of Downey received a RENA mandate of 6,525 units, and it must show that there's enough land zone for housing to accommodate this allocation. Now, this is 5 times larger than the RENA from the last planning period and is a challenge to meet. The city did appeal the allocation. The appeal was denied, as was the appeal by most cities. And the first step in the RENA is looking at housing that's expected to be built during the planning period, which is 8 years, and the potential for new housing. And although we could generally point out where in the city new housing can go, state law requires that we show specific sites or parcels where new housing can be developed. And those are chosen based on several factors, as you can see here. And it's really identifying sites where we feel that there's a realistic potential for development of housing. The first step in meeting the RENA for Downey was showing where housing can be accommodated with projects that are underway, estimates of ADU productions, and what can be accommodated under the city's current land use policies. And as you can see here, most of the existing capacity is in the downtown Downey specific plan and in the Rancho Los Amigos South Campus specific plan. As you can see here, the total sites identified under the current land use policy is just under 3,000 units, which means that there are still about 3,500 units that we need to accommodate. So the second step is seeing where future housing could go. And so the city used a strategy that added residential development potential to new areas of the city. This includes a slight increase in density in the R3 areas, a new mixed-use zone to implement the general plan mixed-use category, adding a residential component or overlay to key commercial corridors and centers. This strategy helped us meet the RENA mandate. And as you can see here, we meet it and we have a surplus of about 890 units. And that's key because the assumption is some of the sites that we chose might not develop in housing. And so this kind of gives us a little bit of a buffer. And just to reiterate what we've said previously, the city is not responsible for building these units. It's just responsible for showing that this level of development can be accommodated under its current land use policy, once rezoning actions are taken as well. This map shows where the RENA capacity is located. And as you can see, most of the new capacity is on key commercial corridors, which you can see in pink. Commercial centers, which you can see in darker blue, which includes the Landing, Stonewood, and the Florence I-5 specific plan. It also includes in the corner of the city in gray, the Rancho Los Amigos campus. And what this map is intended to show is that the existing and the new capacity that were identified is located, distributed throughout the city. Another key part of the housing element is the housing plan, which lays out the city's goals, policies, and programs. The plan addresses 5 topics that are required to be addressed under state law, and they include producing a variety of housing types to meet existing and future needs, assisting in the development of housing for lower income and special needs households, addressing governmental constraints to housing, such as regulatory constraints, conserving and improving the condition of existing housing, and promoting and affirmatively furthering fair housing. The element has gone through 2 formal reviews and 1 informal review, and it was adopted in February and is being readopted now to reflect the state's findings. As you can see here, after the adoption, we worked with HCD to identify where we could, how we could address their comments, which are pretty extensive. And we resubmitted to HCD our revisions just for an informal review to make sure we were on the right track. And those edits are what's in front of you today. And that current document was made available for public input for 14 days. The finding letters that is reflected in the current housing element that you have in front of you is based on a findings letter from February. The finding letter sent a list of specific additions or clarifications to the element. The comments received asked for additional analysis and edits to different parts of the element. Overall, the comments focused on tightening up the sites inventory, more information in the fair housing section, more information about the needs and resources for special needs population in Downey. And they also wanted to see more specific commitments to some of the programs that we have and to clarify the time frame for implementation. So this is a more detailed look at that. So for under realistic capacity, the requested edits was to show that capacity estimates in the sites inventory were realistic, and that because the city is fully developed, that the existing uses on the identified sites would not be an impediment to development. They also wanted assurances that we were not overly relying on lot assembly in our site selection. The revisions also included clarifying details, strengthening analysis, and adding development trends to support our assumptions. The edits also asked that we readjust our ADU projections. We had estimated ADU projections based on an increasing trend, but the state has asked all cities to rely on a track record for actual permits issued in the last few years. And for infrastructure capacity, they wanted more expanded discussion about how water and sewer capacity would fit into the rezoning actions. And we also updated a program to indicate that the environmental review for the general plan and zoning update will thoroughly assess that capacity. They had extensive comments on the fair housing analysis, and just as a quick background, this is a new requirement in housing element law, and as such, most cities, this is the part where they're stuck in the review because this is the first time they're doing the analysis, and it's the first time that the state is reviewing it. And so you kind of go back and forth to see how they want you to do the analysis. And so, for example, they asked us to add more local data, which is really background information on to kind of show how the development pattern in Downey was affected by things just such as redlining, transitioning from industrial uses, and to make sure that we had a strong analysis about what areas of the city had higher needs. They also wanted us to update the analysis on the sites inventory to look at where those sites were located and if they were concentrated or if they caused any fair housing issues, which they don't. So we updated program 5.2 also to address displacement risk and disproportionate housing need, which were two of the findings of the analysis. And displacement risk is just programs to ensure that residents aren't pushed out as costs and development moves forward. We also updated program 5.2 to address environmental disparities and affirmatively market housing choice vouchers to kind of make that resource wider known in the community. For program 3.5, the state indicated that the city's emergency shelter parking requirements were not consistent with state law. And so that was edited to reflect state law, which removed parking provision for clients of the emergency shelters. Also, they asked for an adjustment in an analysis and an adjustment of multifamily parking, particularly for smaller units, because they felt that it was too high. And so we have a program added for that as well. After seeing the draft revisions in their informal review that I discussed, they had a few additional comments, and we received these comments via phone call on this earlier this week. And so we weren't able to make those revisions in time to put that in front of you today. But I wanted to discuss some of those findings, and these are much more limited specific findings, which tells us that all the extensive revisions we did, we were on the right track. So for example, let me go through these edits. The first one, they wanted us to expand the geographic analysis and the program metrics to show an equitable distribution of housing sites for the RENA. And so we will be adding an analysis that shows the distribution of sites by income and by census tract. So we can see if there is any fair housing issues related to maybe a concentration of sites in lower income, higher need areas. We don't expect that result because of the information we have so far, but we're adding that analysis. We're also expanding the sites inventory analysis to justify the capacity estimates on sites that allow 100% non-residential uses. So for example, mixed use sites or sites in the downtown Downey specific plan where property owners can build commercial, they can build residential, or they can build a combination of both. So we will be adding an analysis on trends to support those assumptions that residential uses are likely to be developed based on what we've seen happening and what the property owners have expressed and what the trends have been. For the sites inventory, we'll also be expanding the discussion of development trends to support the use of non-vacant sites. And like I mentioned earlier, Downey, like many cities in LA County, is fully developed. And so many of the sites, most all of the sites have existing uses on them. And so the state has really focused, not just for Downey, for all cities, on a stronger analysis to show that the non-vacant sites that we've chosen have a realistic probability of redeveloping. Of course, we can't guarantee that these sites will redevelop because we don't own the sites and we can't tell the property owner what to do. But we're going to expand the discussion of development trends, again, to support site selection and to support the assumption that we think based on the zoning and the potential capacity that property owners have, that these would redevelop. And finally, they asked for some adjustments in the parking program and not necessarily expanding it, but then they wanted us to be more specific in our language. So we changed some word in the emergency shelter parking program. We just literally changed 4 words. And for the land use changes program, we will be clarifying that how multifamily parking can be adjusted to make sure that it's not an impediment to development of housing in Downey. And we're also adding that part of that analysis will be looking at the garage requirement and the space requirements for small units, so studio and 1-bedroom units. As I said, those changes from this week are not reflected in the document you have, but will be included in the adoption version. Now, as you know, the amendment is being readopted today, and the reason is that so if the state has any future non-substantive edits, they can more easily be made. The revisions will be sent to the state, and the hope is that they'll provide an all clear letter, which an all clear letter means that they indicate that the element is compliant with state law. Or they could come back and ask for remaining minor modifications. And based on the trend we've seen with their comments, the comments are just getting more and more specific. So I think if they came back with anything, I think it would be very minor changes. This is the end of the presentation. I appreciate your time and patience, as I know it's a complicated process, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of staff? Commissioner Uva?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duarte?
I do not either.
I just have one question. It's not in regards to the presentation, but I know in our report, it says that we're gonna focus mainly on Firestone Boulevard. Has there been any thought in parking in that area of like, if we're proposing to have additional housing in that specific area? I know there's limited parking, but is it something that you guys are thinking about for the future or something?
So that's going to be a secondary phase. Right now, the housing element is focusing on what opportunity areas there are where we can apply new zoning standards. The Firestone, and particularly in the downtown, there's already a specific plan that addresses parking. There's also additional state laws now that sort of prohibit us from adding additional parking requirements or take away some of our existing parking requirements because there's high-quality transit. That's a designated high-quality transit area, that area of Firestone in our downtown. But the implementation phase after the housing element is adopted and certified by HCD will involve all of the rezoning of the corridors that we've proposed. And in that process, we're gonna also establish development standards, which would include parking requirements for all of the different multifamily that's gonna be developed.
Because I know staff, and I'm sure council, we all wanna make Downey, downtown Downey an it destination, and on top of that, having housing on there, it's gonna be, I give props to you because this is a big endeavor for everybody, for staff, so I give props to you guys. Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant or his or her representative, this will be the time for planning commissioners to disclose any peer hearing site visits or peer hearing discussions that commissioners may have had about the project. Commissioner Uva,
None for me.
Commissioner Duarte.
Done.
The public hearing is now open. There's no applicant, so we'll skip that part. Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
No, Vice Chair, there has not.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of the application?
Wow. Did any of you read the entire thing? It's like 250 pages long. I don't think anybody read it. There was so much information left out. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter what you decide or what you think you're going to decide. The state is going to tell you what to do. And that's the bottom line here. The idea is that you're going to get out of your car and you're going to have apartments up and down Firestone, and you're going to have, how did you word that? Exemplar public transit or something to that effect. We know how that works. It doesn't work at all. The idea is there's not going to be any parking stalls. That's why there's going to be limitations on your parking. That's what's in your future. You need to get out of your car and do what the state tells you to do. They're going to decide everything for you, and you're going to have to heal. It's not going to make anything better. You're just going to be a zombie slave is what you're doing, just doing whatever the government says. As far as the density that's always brought up for the housing, I thought climate change was going to kill us all because we're too dense and we have too many people consuming and creating a bigger carbon footprint. So if we're bringing more people in and we have to build more housing, we're not moving in that direction. We need to remove some of these people and not have them around. Now, you have to decide how you're going to eliminate all these people, and you need to tell us how you want to eliminate all these people, because we are overpopulated, according to the climate change people. According to them. Now, that wasn't brought up. Also, it broke it down demographically. There were more Hispanics that need housing, and we've heard it at the council meetings too. We need more housing, especially for Latinos. And then they tell you that it's more diverse. That was right in this presentation, by the way, but it wasn't mentioned tonight. So how is more Hispanics and everybody else getting pushed out, how is that more diverse? Doesn't make sense. It's not magic. So the idea here is that you're not going to decide anything. You're going to do whatever the state tells you, and we're going to have Gavin Newsom, white, liberal, elitist Democrats telling us how we should live, and now they're going to try to get their girl, Blanca Pacheco, up there in Sacramento to support that idea. That's exactly what's going on here. Get out of your cars. You don't need to drive a car. You ride the bus. Thank you.
In regards to PL and 2100-139 for the record, I'd like to illustrate to the public the term embezzlement regarding Paul Phillips, 2022, a resident of Cerritos, city manager Paul Phillips will stand trial for allegedly assisting in a developer scheme to steal up to $20 million fucking dollars in public funds from a proposed solar farm and steal your money. So what does that have to do with tonight's conversation? Like we heard, the state will dictate to the puppets what they want. And it's usually comes in a formula like, fuck you, just do what we tell you, and we're gonna make it work. But the reality is, the city of Downey is not ready for that. It's not prepared for that. We're outdated on infrastructure. We understand that the problems that we have here is that we sit in a low area of ground, sort of like a meadow. You know, the meadow. And in that meadow, guess what? With the heavy rains coming, global warming coming, your motherfucking city's gonna sink underwater. So why don't you guys think outside the motherfucking box? It's called density. We don't want density in Downey. We like our homes. We like our residential homes. We like our R1s. Yeah, we're gonna get inundated by R2 because that fucking dumb fuck, Gavin Newsom, the creator of homelessness, has proven to society and to the world that he's a fuck up. A real fuck up. And we're trying to come up with a strategy to develop. And that lady's presentation, well, fuck. Does she not see what's going on in society today? The census on homelessness, the census of veterans dying daily on our streets because they don't have a home, and the goddamn venture to do what? Build more density? Regardless, we'll have to build up. But don't build it here in fucking Downey. Stick that shit back where it belongs in LA. Shove it up Eric Garcetti's ass, the asshole mayor of Los Angeles, who created these fucking development problems. And like I said, I'll reiterate, the trial embezzlement case of an allegedly assisting in developer's scheme to steal $20 million. Thank you, Jose Luis Huizar, the leader of development corruption. Fuck you. For the record. Man, it's quite small, but you might be able to put that in your file.
The public hearing is now closed. Does planning staff have a recommendation?
Yes, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council adopt the housing element update revisions, as well as the future potential revisions as described in staff's presentation.
It is now time for the Planning Commission to deliberate. Does the commission have any questions at this time, or would the commission like to discuss the item? Commissioner Uva?
No, nothing.
Commissioner Duarte?
Nothing for me.
And I have none. May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt PLN-21-00139, the general plan revisions and future revisions that were mentioned here today.
I will second that.
May we have a vote?
Okay, we'll be taking a roll call vote. Commissioner Duarte,
Aye.
Commissioner Uva,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Ortiz.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 3-0 with Chair Owens absent to approve PLN 21-00139 for a general plan amendment.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the City Council with appropriate fee with the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Now on agenda, public comment. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on non-agenda items, consent, and other business items within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission and not listed on the agenda. It is requested but not required that you state your name, address, and subject matter upon you wish to speak. Please limit your comments for non-agenda items to no more than 4 minutes. Pursuant to the Brown Act, no discussion or action other than brief response, referral to the city planning staff, or schedule for subsequent agenda shall be taken by the Planning Commission on any issue brought forth under this section.
So, everyone, we know that Blanca Pacheco, who can't think outside the box on her own because mommy and daddy hold her hand and direct her what to say and what to do. You know, what a foolish little bitch. You know, we don't need people in our assembly like that. And where I believe, if I'm politically correct in my war with local government, politely, and why do I say that? because I realize that there's too much scumbags, dirtbags, corruption going on that it's unbelievable if you look behind me to see that 3 people in the audience and only 2 speakers on decisions made here in Downey. Well, again, I want to emphasize, I want a motion that you guys bring to the attention of those 5 idiots in our council and say to them, someone's concerned about these restaurants that are creating havoc in the community. And we need to adjust that, not later, not tomorrow, now. If the outcry of the public that have homes and have children are being threatened by outside people in the public just because they want to come in and eat at a particular restaurant and create particular problems, then you should get involved. Just the way you shut down that one place off of Lakewood where it was like a hookah slash bullshit type of kickback joint behind the barber shops and those stores off of Lakewood. And Mr. Duarte knows exactly what I'm talking about. And why did that place shut down? Because you have apartments right up against it. And they play their music and have all this crowd hanging out in the parking lot, dropping their bottles, getting into fights, and just creating a commotion that no one wants in their community. So how do you stop it? Well, you persist in getting shit done. If the public is saying to you that they're not happy in the way they're living, they should have a right to sue the city of Downey for damages, for the right to enjoyment of their property. Because if I still lived here, I sure hell would be supporting that. But I'm speaking on that half that can't come in here tonight and speak. So I'm asking you bring a motion to bring council into this conflict, to have mediation and resolution to solve these type of problems. In addition to that, you know, just the other day, I finally got into the County Board of Supervisors. And I didn't use one vulgar word. And you know why? Because sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. And it's no one's fault but mine. 3 years unemployed because my employer doesn't want to let me back to work. I'd be out of your hair. I'd be back at work doing my job. But because of COVID, as you see, niggers don't want me back. But it's cool, because this nigger ain't going back. Because this nigger's going to do something about it eventually. So when you want to play fucking games with people in our society, don't play with the wrong person. Because the big boys will take care of the problems. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm submitting these documents.
And finally, I think I don't need to reiterate that the residents in Downey are very, very upset. They're mad. Well, mad denotes insanity. They're angry. They're very angry. They're not happy with the city council at all, with the city council, except the few little groups that are fighting for control of the purse strings. There's a few of them left, and there's still a little bit of money in the pot. But with the overall direction the city is going and the attitude that has been thrusted back towards the residents is why they're complaining, and they're worried and they're angry. They know, and they're watching these meetings for whatever reason, they're concerned. They know when things are not just a little bit of a problem over by Tacos Don Goya or it's chatter on my email. They know more than that. And they don't believe you when you try to blow them off like that, okay? They're mad, they're angry. It's sad that the Downey Warren High School athletic department can't run a fundraising carnival decently and orderly without getting invaded by outsiders. Now, I ain't much of a control freak on businesses, but I do draw the line when people pull up with their ice chests or whatever you want to call it, and they're getting their supply from some warehouse in Cudahy, to sell mayonnaise, corn, and bathtub cheese. It's not very good stuff out there. And it's not fair to those people that pay $100 for their booth as a fundraiser to make some money themselves. It's not fair to them to have street vendors coming up there, non-permitted, and selling their stuff on the street, taking away customers. It's designed for a fundraiser for our sports programs, and we should have priority over that. We're tired of we're looking for some leadership somewhere, and I'm hoping to get some from the Planning Commission. We can have some common sense somewhere. We're not getting any in the City Council at all. Nothing. Same old stuff. And that's why all those policies that, our mayor, Blanca Pacheco, is going to go along with, if she goes up to the assembly, you're going to still see $6 a gallon gasoline. You're still going to see inflation. You're still going to see more taxes. We've had nothing but taxes, and they still want more taxes. But I think people are getting the message back to some of our council candidates. Number one issue, public safety. They're tired of people like Mario Trujillo and Blanca Pacheco and Catherine Alvarez supporting people like George Gascon and not supporting the recall of George Gascon and letting these criminals back out on the street. They're scared to go out at night. They're afraid. And they're tired of taxes. Assessment tax, hotel tax, school bonds, junior college bonds. Man, Emil Gandhi gets up there and says, we need to go to 10.5% sales tax. More, we want more taxes. Number two issue is taxes. People are sick and tired of it to feed government officials and bureaucracy. They want representation. And the third issue is the economy. This economy sucks. It's not good. Their money isn't going anywhere. And it's not a good situation. But we're not going to listen to people like Blanca Pacheco. Thank you.
Seeing there's no consent calendar, does the interim community development director have any additional comments?
No comments tonight.
Meeting adjourned.